everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. Hope you're all doing fantastic. Unfortunately, the weather here in the Northeast, Connecticut, Boston area specifically, has not been fantastic over the last couple weeks. It really has not felt much like summer, with a lot of rain recently. So I hope everybody's making the most of that and still able to be enjoying what we've had of summer so far as much as you can. I'm excited to bring another episode of the show for all of you. I have a really special guest with me on this show with me. I'm excited to have him share his story. He's super accomplished. He actually completed 25 consecutive Boston marathons. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about what went into that with him and just get his story. Bruce Beebe, how are you doing today?
Gabby, thank you. I'm doing very well, thank you, and I'm happy to be here, and and looking forward to our nice conversation.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on here with me too. I think your story is super cool, and I'm excited to get it shared with more people, especially those in the Boston area, because obviously, you mentioned the Boston Marathon is just really the biggest event of its kind in the world.
Yes, yes, it's I'll say it again that we are so lucky here in the Northeast. I live here in Madison, Connecticut. 2 hours away is the Boston Marathon, greatest road race in the world. 2 hours from us. And those lucky enough to be in Boston or Newton or along the course, they live it every day. They see it, and maybe they're used to it, and maybe they don't think of it as much. I'm sure all the runners do, but so anyway, we're very lucky that it's close by.
For sure. Yeah, Boston's great too. And I'm sure it's cool to be able to be on the course and all the scenery and everything that you see along the way, really just absorbing everything that Boston has to offer.
Oh yes, yes. Well, it's the towns too. So a common question that I get asked is about the marathon and about running in Boston, and I look at them like, oh, it finishes in Boston. And most of the run is really through the towns. You got Hopkinton and Ashton and Framingham and the rest of the towns, and that's where you run. And it's not a very large road at all. Um, and so anyway, that's a common question, along with, well, how long is it a marathon? And I say, well, it's to 26.2. And I can tell you one thing, that point two can be a very long distance. When you're at the top there on Boylston Street and you look way down and you can see the finish line. And I tell you, it's been some times you kind of question yourself, am I ever going to get there? So
Yeah.
of
It
course you
feels like
do.
an eternity looking at that finish
Oh
line.
my God. Oh God. Oh yeah. And then the people are screaming, screaming, screaming. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but it is the best crowd support you could ever ask for, no
Yeah.
doubt.
Do you find that crowd support really fuels you to push forward and kind of helps keep you motivated during the race?
Well, it does. It really does, and it does in more than one way. And let me tell you something. What I like to do. So, like this past Boston. I let me go back a little bit there. I have a meniscus issue on my right knee, and I had surgery February 8th. With only basically 2 months to go to the marathon, somehow, how am I ever going to do this? Get to the finish line. We all can get to the start line. That's you just take the bus, and they get you there to the start line. But you got to get to the finish line. That's all you. So anyway, I think of all the things and how can I make it there. And of course, part of it is the crowd, as you mentioned, is like the crowd support. And and what I like to do is this. As I'm running, I love going up to the little kids. They're standing there with their parents, and I'll stop and I'll ask them their name, and I always ask them how are they doing in school, and what is their favorite subject, and kind of just take that moment. Uh, True, I'm not running. True, I can do a better time. But this marathon, the Boston Marathon, there's so much more than trying to get to the finish line and having the best time as far as clock time. I mean, I know a lot of that is true. You get the Kenyans that they're competing, and this is serious. And I'm not in that zone, so I'm in the other part of the zone. I want to make this special, not only for me but for other people too, because they're standing, they're watching, they're our spectators, along with so many other people that make this marathon such a great event. So I kind of owe it. I owe it to them to have them maybe say, "Hey, we had a good time. Remember that crazy runner that stopped and talked to you or so?" Maybe someone else would do that next year, or and it just helps. It's just part of the excitement and the electric in the air.
Yeah, because those people are out there to support everybody running and they're also there to have a good time. So it's cool to have somebody like you who's interacting with them during the race too and just helping them to feel connected to what's going on as opposed to just standing there watching everybody run by. So,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly, exactly. Um, Boston 2018. Oh my God, 2018. Rain, 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 and not sprinkly rain, hard rain
Oh,
the
geez.
whole way to Boston. And the spectators, there they are. Not as many, I can tell you, not as many as compared to, let's say, this past year. Um, but they're out there, and I take the time to say thank you, especially to water stops. The volunteers, just thousands of volunteers. So it's important to acknowledge they need the acknowledgement, and that's they need that. And I'm sure there's a lot of other runners that do the same thing as I do, and that just makes it part of the fun for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Even watching it on TV, it always looks like just a great atmosphere to be a part of too. And everybody in the Boston area comes together for that event. And it's just super cool to really just see how many people get excited for it.
Hmm. Oh yes, yeah, definitely so, definitely so.
So, at what point in your life did you really first get involved with running?
Okay, so I have to go back to the early days of. I was in high school, and my brother Mark, good runner. He's a streaker, meaning he runs every day.
Okay.
And he started running, and he said, "Come on, let's go for a run." And now, growing up, my brother, which he's in love with all the Boston sports. He actually lives in Ohio, and he loves anything Boston. So he reads the Boston Globe in the morning, and he's well connected with Boston. So
That's
we
awesome.
went for a run. He says, "Come on, you got to go for a run." And it's like, a run? What are you talking about? I mean, we did sports growing up: lacrosse, soccer, baseball. Whatever the season was, that was the sport, and that's what we did. And so I remember going for a run with him. It's like, and I'm thinking, this is awful. It's like, God, I'm just like running. I'm used to like hitting a ball or kicking a ball or trying to get a goal. There's like more to it. And I have to say that was probably my first like run was with him, and I don't even know what year that was. I'd say in the '70s sometime, and I think that was the last time that I ran until I was about 34.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm one of those latecomers here with running. So I was about 34, and I was at that age where you kind of look at yourself in the mirror and it's like, I don't look like I used to look. And not only that, my son, he was going to be born in '95, and it's like I started thinking, I need to get my act together. I need to, be better than what I am now. And so I started to run. I started to run. Yeah, and I'll never forget this. People laughed. It's like I started running, and it's after work. I finished around 5 or 6 or something like that. I put on, actually, I worked in sneakers. I still work in sneakers. And so I just got in my truck. I went to Daniel Hand, where the track is, and I ran 1 mile. And I ran it in my work sneakers, my pants, and work shirt. And I ran a
Wow.
mile. and,
Wow.
and I remember I did like 6:15 or I don't know, it was something like that, and that was my run. And and then a sales rep that I dealt with at that time said something about the Boston Marathon, and I was like intrigued. It's like, really? So 26 miles, 26.2 miles. Oh yeah, but you have to qualify. Really? Okay. So I'm going to start running faster, and I'm going to start running longer. And then it just grew from that point. So that was kind of like the start of it right there. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that's such an interesting story too, because I feel like a lot of times people would say, I've really been running for most of my life consistently and kind of worked my way into running those types of distances. So it's interesting that it didn't really start until the relatively later side for you.
Yes. Yeah. And that's common. I've throughout the years run with people that they never ran in high school or college. And what I found is that these people are going through some life event, and running happened to be their outlet. And they'd start in their 30s or even 40s, and turn out to be good runners. And from some life event, maybe someone is sick in their family, or maybe there's a death in the family, or a divorce, or something big happened in their life, and and drove them to take up running. It was a sense of or type of therapy for them. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. And it's good if you have that outlet too, because everybody has different, means for kind of escaping what's going on in their life and just being able to relieve stress in some way.
Hmm.
And I do feel like a lot of people say that running or working out in some capacity is a good outlet for them.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. And then you develop friendships that lifelong friendships, and just from running. I mean, you run with someone else, and I feel very strong about that, to find someone to run with, to be with, to talk to, uh, because we all need to talk to someone. We all have a story. We all have some kind of complaint, or some 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 life
Yeah.
thing going on. Something that probably is like a mountain to us, but is like a little molehill compared to some other people, and so there's many times we go for a run. It's 8 miles or 6 miles, or it could be 10 miles. We get done with a run. I don't even remember the run, because we were talking the whole time, just going back and forth. And it's great. It's great. And through that you develop friendship, and you're helping out the people. I mean, they need some people, we all need to hear and listen and speak our feelings, and you live and you learn a lot from other people. You realize how little you know as you travel through life, and you're with people that are knowledgeable. So
Yeah. No, it's so true, and it's always good to surround yourself with people who are knowledgeable, because it's you're just constantly learning, and just being able to surround yourself with people continuously who can allow you to really grow is so important no matter what you're doing.
mhm.
Yeah.
True, so true, so
What
true.
is so what exactly does your training regimen look like? So if somebody says, I want to run a marathon and work your way up to that, what exactly goes into the training for that?
Well, I run quite a few marathons, and so my training is a little bit different than what you would think as training for a marathon. So for instance, um, usually, so let me go back. This past Boston, this was my 25th in a row Boston, but it was also my 110th marathon.
Oh, wow.
And basically that's 4 to 6 marathons a year. And they're somewhat spread out. So my training for a marathon means I'm just going to go do a marathon today, and rather than doing my regular run. So I was always at that level. I was always race ready. I was race ready. If someone said to me, "Hey, Bruce, there's a race in so and so wherever," and I'd either didn't know about it or maybe I forgot about it, it's like, let's go. Off we go. Let's do a race. And marathons, of course, I'd plan out a little bit better than that. Oh, sometimes a week out, maybe, and then just go. If I was in training and really wanted to compete and do a good time, my training, uh, I would say you have a track. Um, my track training would be typically like 10 800s. And for me, if I can do them like in 310, 310-ish, 3 minutes and 10 seconds, 315 to do the 800s, that's good for me. And as far as my long runs, I have a loop that starts from my place, and it's a 13.1 mile loop. That's got about 8 hills in it. And I run it hard. I run it as if I'm racing. Um, my training does not consist of running 23 miles, 20 miles, and doing those multiple long runs before a marathon. I did those in the past. Um, I don't like doing them anymore. It just beats you up. It wears you down. When you're done with the run, then you're just like laying around on the couch the rest of the day. And I've got things going on. so I got other things to do. I've got other things to do. So, and I'm a big believer in rest, so typically I won't run any more than 5 days a week. Rest is very important. That's a very important element of training, is rest, is not running. And nutrition is important. And I say nutrition, obviously a simple, a baseline nutrition that you're eating pretty well. But then while you're running, what are you doing for hydration? I have trouble with the heat. And so when it gets hot out, I'm already in trouble because I lose fluids fast. So hydrating is a challenge for me. So I got to be ahead of the curve if I can. It's hard to be, but that's my challenge with nutrition. So
Yeah, I feel like there's so much that goes into having to keep it up and being able to follow certain things and certain criteria to kind of keep your body ready for whenever you want to race.
right, and believe me, I have my share of ice cream. That's my weakness, and and junk food and things. So it's not like I'm, following this strict militant guide. Not at all. Not at all. This is about having fun, competition. I always like to compete. I remember when I was little, just being on my bicycle. I'd ask other people other kids on their bikes, "Hey, let's race, let's race. Come on, let's race, let's race." I always wanted to race. It was a challenge. It just was, and so I think that still lives on. Um, so anyway.
No, that's so interesting. So I know because Boston obviously, is a bigger race than a lot of other ones, other marathon races that people might run in. So how exactly do they do the qualification for Boston? How do you qualify for that race versus other ones? Is there kind of a certain time that you have to meet to be able to participate in the Boston Marathon?
Absolutely. So there is a qualification time, and it's based on age groups, and it's every 5 years are the age groups. Well, I say every 5 years. That's after age 35. So 35 and down or under that, the qualification time, God, I don't know. I think it's like 3:05. I think it's 3:05 or 3:10. It's one of those two times. So you got to go somewhere else or run another marathon, and it has to be a certified course. And you have, then you can, if you run that, and if you're under age 35, that's the time you need. And then when the sign up comes for Boston, which is August through or into September, um, that allows you to put in your application online to get a spot for Boston. It's not always a guarantee, though, because there were limits to the size of the field at Boston. So even though you qualified, and let's say your qualifying time, let's say, for example, your qualifying time was 3:10, and if you put in a qualifying time of 3:09, let's say, that wasn't always a guarantee that you were going to get in. So I want to say back in 2018, 2019, somewhere in that zone, that wasn't a guarantee that you're going to get in. And I think at one point in time, you had to beat it by almost 4 minutes or so.
Oh,
But yeah. So even though you'd qualify at some other marathon and you think that you're all set and you're good, not necessarily the case. The last 2 years, this year and last year, I think as long as you made your qualifying time, you were in. There wasn't that 4 minute or 3 minute issue at all that I just described. So me, I'm 61. I need a 350. So that's the difference between, being 35 and my age. So I've got to do it in 3 hours and 50 minutes
okay.
is my qualification time. And so I don't have to qualify anymore, but I'm going to anyway. I'm going to just keep on going. Uh, uh, Once you run 25 Bostons in a row, then you're exempt from qualification.
Good for
I,
you.
I was, there's a club, it's called the QCC Club. It's the Quarter Century Club. And the BAA, Boston Athletic Association, acknowledges them as, and so one of the little perks of being in that club is an exemption for qualifying or as a requirement to get into the marathon. So anyway, that's where I am right now.
Yeah, so even if you've run it before, you still have to requalify each year,
Yes,
typically until you get to the point where you're at if you want to be in the race again.
correct. You
Okay.
still, yeah. Just because you just run one marathon, that's only good for 18 months, or they go back 18 months in time. Um, so at best, you can use one qualifying race. At best, you can use for 2 Bostons, depending on what the calendar is.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. But you got to keep at it. So, yes, it's true. 25 Bostons in a row, and that means a lot. But even more meaningful is 28 years of running, 28 years of getting up, 0 degrees. It's dark, and we're going to meet at 5 a.m. in the morning, and we're going to run through the snow. We're going to run through the rain. We're going to run, and it's miserable, and it's that. and keep going, and Boston is just like the end of it. Like, hey, yeah, we are able to keep going, injury, or not, but fast enough, and we can still continue to do Boston. But the bigger picture is running that many years and still keep going and getting up when you don't want to get up.
Yeah. When you can easily say, no, I'd rather just stay in bed right now.
That's right. That's right. And the thing is this, Gabby, is that the times that you don't want to get up, you do, because people are waiting on you. They know that you're going to be there. And so it's that support, that expectation that you don't want to let people down. You don't want them worried about you or wondering what's going on with you. So you know what? You get up, you just do it. You meet them, and off you go. And the conversation starts, and we're all talking, and yeah, and that's what happens. And so um, that's there. I'll never forget. I'll never forget that. There's that one run. Well, there's been many runs, but there's one run. It was. I had to look twice at the thermometer. It was -7, and we're meeting at, I forgot. It was like 6 a.m. It was later. What we call late is 6, and it was the three of us, and we went for like a 7 or 8 mile run. It was so cold, so cold. And I remember coming back, and my eyelashes were frozen. They had all white on them, and but we are talking the whole time, like we always do. And it was, you kind of, you do remember those runs for sure, that we actually did it. So anyway.
Yeah, I feel like you feel proud of yourself after you accomplish something like that too. Like I know a lot of people who, run an intense race like that and they'll finish and then they'll just say, "I'm so proud of what I just did."
Yeah. Well, it is good. You think about what we just did, whether it's 3 miles, whether it's 18 miles, whether it's 13 miles. You kind of think about it. And a lot of runners, let's face it, we're in 0.001% of the population of what we're doing. It's not easy. Not
Yeah,
easy.
definitely not for everybody.
Not for that's right. But I think as more people, if they ever took a chance and just decided to do it for whatever the reason is, I will bet you they will be happy and glad that they decided to do it, to just to go ahead and try it, and see, all the things that come your way as a result of running. Um, yeah, it brings you to different places. Montreal, I ran Moscow and
Oh,
Paris. And Moscow, that was an experience, running Moscow. Oh yeah, that was back in 2004. Yeah, they were still learning how to produce a marathon.
oh
they,
gosh.
they weren't very good with the water supply. Yeah, no water, no porta potties. They had these like Soviet era um, uh, military trailers, and you go in them, and oh my God, they were awful. I just ran out of those, and then I had to run off the course and find a place to go. And oh yeah, that was, yeah, I won't ever forget about that. And being there at Red Square, and yeah, and the funny thing is this, these races, you end up with many times, not all the time, with a race friend, someone that you just get to talking with, that happens to be there on the same pace. And so I was running with this guy that he was from Austin, Texas. And so here's two Americans, we're running together in Moscow, and we're just talking about different things. We're trying to figure out the language and, the signage, and we're having a good time. We're having a good time, and we're talking about running, and what's it like to run in Austin, and as we're running through the streets of Moscow. So there's this moments like that, and I don't remember his name now. I know I will most likely never see him again in my life. But that's happens, and that happens with everyone doing marathons and races like this, long distance races. So,
But it's cool because you remember those conversations,
oh
even
yeah,
even if even if you say, "I'm probably never going to see this person again," that's just a conversation that stood out to you because you were
yeah,
probably like, "What are the chances that I would run into another American and just at this point in the race and just happen to be running with somebody else who's from
Yeah.
the same country as me when you're running in a different place. So that's why it's probably cool, because you're never going to forget that conversation, even if you might not see the person again. So that's just another memory you can add to
Oh, yes.
the list of throughout the years.
Oh, definitely so. Definitely so. Then Philadelphia, I tell you, that's another memory is Philadelphia. Um, it seemed like that was always the marathon that had the big surprises. There's a period of time that every year there was something different. They were trying a different, uh, back then they had the timing chips they put on your sneakers, and they were experimenting. And anyway, they had some flaws that were one year that they didn't time, like 10% of the runners were not even timed because of some failure they had. Oh,
Oh
it was
my
awful.
God.
Oh, yes. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and then that marathon, and that marathon, I've done Philly, like, I don't know, it's like 5 or 6 times. But the juggler, there's a juggler. There's this guy that was juggling 3 balls, and he was running next to me, and we were moving at a pretty good clip. I would say at that time I was doing, I don't know, 6:45s or so. It was my mile pace. And the guy's next to me, and he's juggling. Can you imagine that? Juggling. And I looked at him, it's like, how the hell are you juggling? I mean, I didn't talk to him because I figured that's not a good idea to distract him with he's trying to juggle 3 balls. And he passes me, and it's like, what the hell? And all I got to do is focus in on running. This guy's next to me, and he's juggling 3 balls. And so he
I
goes
can't
ahead.
even juggle just standing straight. I don't know. I
Yeah,
can't even imagine doing that while running.
while running. And so he gets ahead of me. And then what happens is I get ahead of him. I didn't realize this, but he was stopping at the water stops. And so then I'd get ahead of him. I didn't see that I passed him. And then like 10, 15 minutes will go by, and there he is again, next to me again, juggling. It's like, oh no. I
That
looked
is
at
pretty
him,
impressive.
it's like, oh, it's you again. I think it was mostly because he reminded me of how insufficient and how worthless I was, because he could juggle and run faster than me, and all I had to do was run. And it just showed you his level. It showed you, what he could do. And he earned it. He practiced, I'm sure, endlessly. And so here's the thing. This went on for the next hour and a half. He probably passed me 8 or 9 times. And each time I look at him and say, oh no. It was like, what is it? Like Groundhog Day, right? It's just a repeat. And so that was kind of like a mental punishment right there, just as a reminder. So that was the Philly Marathon. And so Philly Marathon is always like the week before Thanksgiving. And so then next April, I remember this was like this was, I think it was just after Framingham. I'm running down the hill, and next to me, no, the juggler is next to me at Boston.
No way.
I looked at him. I looked at him and I said, "Oh, it's you from Philly, the juggler." And I can't believe this, Gabby. Then I hear a voice. He says, "No." And the voice was coming from my right side. That was me. So on the left of me was one juggler. And on the right of me, to the right of me, was the other juggler. And that was the one from Philadelphia that I kept on passing me back in November. And I laughed. I said, I can't believe this. Here I am. I'm running between these two jugglers. And each of them had the 3 balls. And I tell you what, there was no passing this time. They were competing against each other. And I didn't realize this is some kind of classification of a world record for juggling while running a marathon. So that's what they were competing against in the Guinness Book of World Records. Okay. So I forgot which one took it, but I think it was sub 3. It was a sub 3 marathon.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, a moment in time right there, having 2 jugglers, one on the left and one on the right. Only
Yeah.
at
What are
Boston.
the chances of that?
I know. I know. You're right. It's slim when you think about all the people and all the places that you have to be at exactly at that moment to be to be there and to meet up with someone like that. So
That's so cool though, because there's probably so many unique stories like that.
there are, and that's just my story. If you think about it, this past year, Boston, there's 30,000 runners, and of the 30,000 runners, everyone's got a story. And if you think about, back on what your show is about, Boston sports, think about this. You have 30,000 people. They're coming in from around the world, and they have their own story. And for this moment in time, April 17th this past year, we're all together. We're at the start line, and we're going to share this moment. In this moment, all the volunteers, all the spectators, all the planning, and this moment's going to go on for the day. Some of the Kenyans are going to come in at 2 hours and 5 minutes or 4 minutes. And some people, I came in late this year at I think 5:19 was my time. That's running 19 miles and having to walk 7 miles. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that, but anyway, that was my time. But anyway, again, it's just the stories, and it's Boston, and tell me a sport that is more than that. Think about that, where you come together and you have all these people, many accomplished people, many accomplished people, and we're there, and we're all part of this one event, Patriots Day. It's a
Yep.
sight to see.
Yeah. And it brings together just the entire community, just people in the Boston area in general. It's just a day to just really honor Boston,
Oh yes,
you know, for
yes,
what it is, which is
yeah,
just a cool moment, I'm sure, to be part of that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Everyone, and you think about, So here's one thing I think about things when you're running, and you see people, and you see people with disabilities, and you say, God, look at that, look at what it takes, the courage, the determination, the training, and the course is full of that. The course is full of those people that are there, and like I said, with their own story and their own challenges, and there's uh, from different countries too, many different countries.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal.
It's cool how diverse it is. Yeah, being able to just bring people together that are from other areas too, because everybody just knows about the Boston Marathon, and I feel like so many runners probably strive
Yeah.
to be in that spot at that specific race. So that's probably super cool too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You can go anywhere in the world. They know Boston.
Yep.
They know
Yeah.
Boston Marathon. Yeah. They may not know the Boston Red Sox. They know the
Yeah.
Boston Marathon
Yeah.
because it's a world event.
Yeah.
A world
No,
event.
that's pretty cool. Is there a specific part of the course that's your favorite in Boston? A certain area that you enjoy running in the most?
Yeah, the finish line.
Well, yeah, because you're
I'm
finishing
finished.
the race.
Well, good question. Very good question. I I don't have any particular spot. Amazingly, I don't have. You know, yeah. You know what? Boston College.
Really?
The
Okay.
craziness at Boston College. You can't beat it. The guys, yeah, they're having a good time. They're yelling, they're screaming, the whole deal. And you know what? Yes. So Boston College, um, on the way to Boston, the crowds are getting thicker. There's more people. The electric is in the air, and it's powerful. The last mile, you got 1 mile to go. There's a line, 1 mile to go. Oh yeah, and then when you You take the right and you take the left. The people and runners know what that means. And the people and the energy, there's nothing like it. So, I would say the last 10K to answer your question.
Okay.
The last 6.2 is
You're in that home stretch at that point too.
Yeah.
So it's probably the adrenaline's probably rushing too, because you're like, I'm so close to finishing this race now.
Yes. And you need it because by then you're beat up. Boston's not an easy course. It's not an easy course whatsoever. And the hills and I didn't realize something, Gabby. So something that what I didn't realize was back in get my dates correct here, 2020 or 2021, the COVID one, where no Boston, and then to run Boston, it was going to be a virtual, and to qualify or to get your medal, you'd have to run a virtual marathon somewhere. Where it could be in your hometown, it could be anywhere, and that was like the Boston virtual. I didn't do that. No.
You just record yourself running?
No, what I did was this. No, I went to Boston, and me and my wife, then the next morning, we drove over to Hopkinton, and I ran the course. 6 a.m. Yep. They said, no, don't do this because they are expecting, I guess, thousands of runners to still run the course. There are other runners, not a lot, but no, I had to run the course. No, I can't run in circles around my neighborhood. It's not the same. At least run the course. But this is what I discovered. Running the course by myself. It's a hilly course. You don't see the micro hills when there's runners in front of you. Because when you're running Boston, there's runners in front of you, there's runners behind you, there's runners on the side of you, left and right. And so you're always kind of watching your step, watching where you're running. You don't see the hills. You take the runners out of the picture, and then you see these hills. And so when I was running in October, that what I call the virtual Boston, it's like I'm saying to myself, where the hell did this hill come from? I never remember this hill. And I started thinking, it's because I didn't see it, because all the runners are in front of me. You don't see it. But go run the Boston course, and then you'll see. It's a hilly course. You're going up or you're going down. There's not a whole lot of flat in Boston. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's challenging. That's definitely challenging, handling all those hills, especially when you're already running a long race like that.
Yes. So,
did you find that COVID year when you went and you ran the course, did you find that it was more difficult to kind of maintain a pace that you liked because you didn't have, the crowd support around you and it was just a different environment from a normal year, or did you just still find that it wasn't really a setback?
it wasn't much of a setback. There were people that were around on the course, and they knew. I was wearing a number because the Boston Marathon, the race organizers, they sent your numbers out, and so I wore my number. So I had a bib on when I was running, and so people knew. And there were people that lived on the course. They had water out, and they knew. That some runners were coming up to do this. Oh yeah, and I remember at the bottom of at the base of Heartbreak Hill, there's this Chinese girl. Yeah, she's from China, and she was doing it, and there's a support crew for her. I got to talking to them. They gave me some Gatorade or something, and very nice. And off we went. Off we went again. We talked a little bit, and again, one of those little moments of time that you don't forget. And then I stopped or she stopped or whatever to take a break, and and that's it. Got to like the 1 mile, the traffic, because this was a regular day in Massachusetts. This was like, all the streets were open, So you had to run off on the side. And I remember all the traffic. It's like, oh no, it's like I can't get across the street. All the traffic, So I had to wait there for a couple minutes and wait for the coast to be clear before I bolted across and just to keep going and just to get to the finish line. So, and I got, on Boylston Street, I saw some other runners. So I don't know how many people did that. But there's a few, because I remember WBZ was there at the finish line because some other people were there and they were running too. So
That's so interesting. That definitely is so interesting, and it's interesting to picture it being so empty on the
yeah.
Boston Marathon course, just because there's always so many people there.
Yes, yes,
It was a
yes.
weird time. COVID was definitely just a weird time.
It is. It is. That's another vision or image I have in my mind is like this past year, um, because I had meniscus surgery. I was being very cautious. My training for Boston was rest and more rest, and my knee was not healing very fast. March 17th, a month before Boston, I said, I got to go to the track. I got to do something. I got to see where I am. I could not make it one lap around the track without going into pain. It's like,
Wow.
what am I going to do? How am I ever going to do it? And so I was scared. I was depressed. I was like everything that you don't want. And I had. And so I was nice to my knee. I was going to physical therapy. So 6 days before Boston, I've got my Tuesday running group. It's the three of us or four of us total. And I showed up and I said, listen, I got to do something. Boston is in 6 days. Don't be surprised. I may have to stop and walk. You guys keep going. They said, that's crap. If you stop, we're stopping. So I said, all right, but just please, I don't want to hold you guys up. I don't want to hold you guys up. So I ran like a half a mile and then I kind of felt my knee a little bit. I didn't trust it. So I said, I got to stop. I got to stop. And so I did. And I walked and we walked for like 30 seconds or a minute or whatever it was. And then we started again. And then it's like, I'm running a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and I'm not feeling pain. It's like, wow, maybe I'm okay. Maybe I'm okay. And I continued that, and I ended up walking 3 miles, and that was my training for the 2023 Boston Marathon. Was the 3 mile run. That was it.
Wow.
I know. Oh my God.
Wow.
Would not recommend that. Would not recommend that. But it was a challenge because while I'm watching TV, I got my leg up, I got the ice on, and I'm whatever it is that I was doing. Okay, I'm saying to myself or thinking to myself, training is easy. You go out, you do your training. If you really want to do a good time, you're going out for a run, long run, a regular run, maintenance run, whatever it is easy. I can't do that. I can't run. My body says no. Think of it like you have an exam coming up. Oh, by the way, we're not going to let you look at the books. You can't study, and you're going to have to take the exam. And that's what the analogy would be, I would say. And
Wow.
that, yeah,
That's tough.
yeah.
That's tough.
Think about that. You got an exam, and you can't study, and you're not allowed to study.
I mean, I'd fail, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, get up there. Okay, kind of starts to rain a little bit at the start line, and I'm like really, I'm kind of scared, and I'm very hopeful. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know, damn it, I got to get to the finish line. This is going to be my 25th in a row, and there's no damn way that I'm going to let this slide through my hands. God damn it, I'm going to do it. And gun goes off. Well. And off we go. And I started running slow, real slow pace, 10-minute pace or 10:30, whatever that was. And what happened was the wave that I was, because in Boston there's 3 or 4 waves of runners. So there's like a wave of like 10,000 runners, and you all go and then there's a half an hour break between the waves, or 20-minute break between the waves. So anyway, I was running slow enough, and I was running really cautious, that the entire wave of 10,000 runners got ahead of me. And so what does that mean? Well, this is what it means. I am completely by myself on the Boston Marathon course, race day, with all these people staring at me like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? I got the entire water stops all to myself. I don't have to worry about, grabbing the water, fighting over water, or dodging people to get to the water. And I didn't have that. It was weird. It was silence. It was silence. And I said hello to people. I thanked the volunteers for being there. But I did. There is a runner I came up on, and I saw she had a bib on her back. And when I see a bib on someone's back, I just shake my head. It's like, come on, you got to get it on the front. That's where it belongs.
Yeah.
But she had it on her back. But then as I got closer, it said QCC, and it said how many marathons she's done, Boston marathons. So the lady, she had 36 marathons, Boston says she did. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. As a little lady, I want to say she's maybe all 5 foot tall, Japanese, I believe. And I said to her, congratulations, because this was her number 36. This was my 25th. And she was running slower than me. I don't know why she was ahead of me, how that happened, but anyway. And so we were coming up on a water stop. I mean, the people are doing nothing. It's only me and a Japanese lady in the course at that point. And I think this was like at mile 2 or mile 3. It's somewhere in that zone. And I said, you know what? These people, forget about me. These people need to know that this lady here, this is her number 36th Boston Marathon in a row. So I'd start yelling to the people at the the water stops, and anyone standing there, and I'd be yelling and then pointing to the lady that she was a little bit behind me, and then they all start cheering, "Go, really go!" And everyone would light up. Oh, I had such a good time with that. Oh yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And she would say, "No, don't do that. Don't do that." I said, "Yes, damn it. You've earned it. Think about it. 36 Bostons. This is number 36. Come on."
Yeah,
You
it's a
know?
huge accomplishment.
Yes, it is. Yes. And so anyway, I came up upon other QCC members, and I happened to come up on the president of the club, the QCC Quarter Century Club, 25 Bostons or more. He had this was his 45th. Oh my God, 45.
Wow.
Oh my God. So, he's royalty. I mean, they're all royalty, when you think about it, what it took to do that, oh my God.
The
And,
dedication and
oh,
hard work that was put into that.
oh, yes, yes. And so I'd slow down, I'd talk to them a little bit, introduce myself, and they were excited that this was my 25th, because they've been there. That was a big, the 25th meant more than 26th. 25th was you just made it in, and
Yeah, yeah.
so
It's a special one.
yes. So they were very happy, and we had good conversation, and so. But then as the race went on, then that blank spot in time, the next wave came up on us, and then we all blended in. There was no more silence. The silence was gone. It was all runners again, and so anyway, that's how it worked out. But early on in the race, it was good to do that, and I stopped to talk to some kids that were on the side, and asked how they're doing, and thanking them for being there, and they're part of it. They're part of it. They may not be running, but they're part of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. You want them to feel like they're involved too.
mhm. Yes, yes, yep.
What's your personal record time-wise on the course?
Oh man, so my personal record is not for the course on that course, but it was 2:59,
Oh, that's good.
and that's not there. That's down at Disney. But
Okay.
there, my record there is 3:02. But a 3:02 Boston is way faster and way better than a 2:59 Disney.
Yeah, because of the how hard the difficulty of the course.
Course, the
Okay.
course, the course. And I will never forget, and that was 2001. I will never forget coming down from Boston College, and I came up to the Hoyts, and the father and son, and we were cruising, and I came up on them, and we're moving. I looked at my watch, so we're cranking it out. So for me, I was at that point doing a 6:30 pace, and I looked at Dick. I kind of waved, and he looked at me and smiled. And I looked at Rick, and he was like staring at me. And I just look at him. I said, God, what? He's pushing his son. He's going so fast. I'm redlining, and I'm doing everything I can do to do this. And seeing Dick push his son, and that energy and the dedication, you take that moment and you realize that the greatness that they had together and what they did, you don't see that. You don't see that anymore. And as you probably know, Richard, he passed away. I want to say it's been 2 months now. I believe he passed away, and Dick was a couple of years ago. But I'll never forget that. I'll never forget. It was a moment, one of those moments you never forget. Another story in the world of running. Yeah,
Yeah, no, there's probably so many. It's so cool to kind of hear a lot of those personal stories from you too,
yeah,
just over the years what you've, experienced as you've been going along on this running journey, really, because
yeah.
it's definitely probably just rewarding to be able to have all those memories to come back with.
hmm It is. It is. I mean, because when you're all done, you know, that's what you have. You have
Yeah.
you have the memories. And I say to people, I say, the ones that, we could be talking about different subjects. And I said, you know what? I want you to remember this. And I hope this is true. I hope that when we're 80 years old and we're sitting on a rocking chair on a porch, I want to be laughing. I'm going to be drinking that beer. We're going to be telling stories. I'm not going to be crying. I'm not going to be saying, oh, how come we never tried this? We'll never know what it would have become. We were always afraid to do this or not do that, whatever. Crap to that. No, do it. Just do it. Maybe you fail. Okay. You fail. At least and you learn from it and you move on. So so things like this during running, these are the types of the conversations, can run pretty deep
Yeah.
at times. So
No, that's awesome. That's definitely awesome. So do you have a certain goal in mind now that you've reached 25 consecutive and you're part of that quarter century club? Do you have a number in mind that you're saying, I want to be able to get to this many consecutive completed Boston marathons, or is your plan to just kind of keep going until you just feel like you can't anymore?
that's pretty what that's about right. So, when I started with this whole running thing,
Yeah.
when I started, I didn't say that I was going to run 100 marathons.
Yeah.
I didn't say or think I was going to run 25 Bostons. Not at all. Nope. It was just a race at a time. And yes, maybe when I got to 11 or 12 Bostons, I started thinking, yeah, maybe I can make it to 20, or when I had like 70 marathons completed, God, 30 more marathons will be 100, Then I started kind of thinking about it, but I didn't become obsessed about it uh, until I was at number 97 or 98. And what I needed to do was line up my 100th marathon had to be with Boston. Absolutely had to be with Boston. It could not be with some nondescript, no nothing kind of a marathon. It had to be with the greatest race in the world. And so 2019 Boston Marathon, that was my 100th marathon. And I just had to do that. It had to be
Cool.
done that way. So I did obsess about that. That was where I was like focused in on that. So, and I don't have, as far as moving forward, the main thing is to stay injury free, and and just to keep going, and and do the best that I can. Um, I don't want to say yes. I'm gonna do 35 and then call it quits. I want to. Maybe I can make it to 50. You know,
That'd be cool.
I don't know. I need to try. I need to try. That'd be great. I'd say that'd be great if I could do that. Uh, but I can't. Another thing too with running is this: a lot of people that don't know runners and long distance runners, you know, on the road you see these runners and they're by themselves, and you think, well, it's you're by yourself. It's your own thing. It's you. You're going to do what you want to do, and you're going to run. That is like the furthest thing from reality. There is a whole support group that you don't see when you see a runner on the side of the road. You don't see the spouse that's rooting for them. They're home, yes, taking care of the kids or whatever's going on. Okay. You don't see the children, okay, of the runner, because they're thrilled that they're going to go to the marathon or wherever the next trip is to a marathon. The friends. So there's a lot of support for the runners, and they need it. When we go to Boston, I didn't get there by myself. I got there because my wife is supportive. I've got a good friend group, good running group, and we enjoy running. And I'm there because, yes, it took my legs to run and to be there, but they helped me. They're a part of this. So I'm not there by myself. I'm there. My friends are with me. I think of them often while running. I don't run blank minded. I think of things in and so yeah, we're not by ourselves, and we're with our families, and our families are with us during this whole thing, whether it's a race or when we're on the street running. So anyway.
Yeah, that support system is so important, and being able to have those people around you that are encouraging you to keep going and, telling you you can do it, because having that mentally, I feel like really, really can help fuel people to just keep moving forward
Yeah.
and continue doing it even when times get tough, you know?
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yes. Yep.
That's so cool. I think your story is fantastic, and I'll be rooting for you to keep going for as long as you choose to do it, especially in Boston.
Well, thank you.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much, Gabby.
I really appreciate you hopping on my show and sharing your story with everybody. I'm so excited to share this with the listeners and everybody who, tunes in, because it's definitely super cool to be able to just hear about your journey and how you really got to where you are, and the fact that you're, still doing it and how passionate you are about it. It's super
Hmm.
fun.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. This was great being here with you. And hopefully this provides some level of entertainment for other people that are trying to understand us runners. or
Yeah.
there's other runners that will be laughing along the way. Let's say it's just kind of agreeing and smiling.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely understand that. Like for people who have done races themselves.
Oh yes. Yeah, it's funny. There's just so many things, and it really is it's funny.
No, for sure. But I really thank you again for doing this. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day and
Well, thank
really
you.
appreciate you again.
Okay, Gabby, thank you. Thank you for having me, and much success with your shows and your future shows.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thank you everybody as always for tuning into the show. I always appreciate it. Hope you all enjoyed this special episode of Boston Balling, and I will talk to you all next time on the show.